All right. Well, welcome WBSU. Just getting my camera here situated. All right. Welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all so much for being a part of this lesson and a part of this course. This is LS303. This is week 3 of interpersonal skills of leadership. All right. All right. So today we're going to be talking about overcoming conflict. This is something that I love to talk about. However, this is something I'm not ashamed to say it. This is probably one of my weakest areas of leadership, simply because there is no one case or one process or guide that suits every situation. So let me go ahead and lay that down right now. This is not a strategy to say this works in every scenario. Nope, that's not what I'm trying to tell you. What I am trying to tell you is that there are strategies that you can apply that will work for various situations, scenarios, ideas, places, situations, whatever that may look like, whatever that may bring. But for the most part, I'm going to give you my guide. I'm going to give you my perception, and I'm going to give you some case studies that I have studied and seen around the world of leadership and around dealing with people in a human resource management type environment, because this would fall under that category. However, in the church world, we really don't have space, if I can say it like that, to really deal with those type of ideals or those type of issues. So if you're taking notes, again, this is not a one process fits everything, but this is a practical guide that will help you. And I am going to be referencing personalities, 16personalities.com, if you want to check that website out. Great source to look at. And I'm going to be referencing them in this lesson. All right. All right. So let's start from the top, and then we'll talk a little bit, and then we'll be done. Let me go ahead and first say this. When it talks about overcoming conflict, we have to understand that every relationship that is healthy will have moments of celebration. There'll be moments of intense focus, but then there'll be moments of love, moments of hope. There'll be moments of tension, disagreement, conflict. And anyone that signed up to be a leader understands that you're going to deal with conflict in any environment and in any circle or sphere of your leadership. In fact, conflict resolution skills is what causes an individual to actually be a great leader. However, it's unfortunate, but conflict is a part of the journey. The good news is this: conflict is simply a bump in the road. Let me say that again. Conflict is simply a bump in the road. It doesn't have to end the relationship or throw the individual away. However, how you handle conflict will also determine how you manage people. Let me say that again. How you handle conflict will also determine how you manage people. Let's face it, we are all human beings comprised of many different personality types, many different methods of confrontation. Nevertheless, we are rooted together because of a cause. And when dealing with conflict as a leader, you must remember to keep everyone and everything centered, or you will see your team, your employees, your relatives will maximize the situation from being emotionally distraught. By keeping everything centered, you are focusing on the facts, not the feelings. You are focusing on the information that has been presented with substantial proof before you consider firing that person or cutting that person off. In the world of leadership, many leaders have perfected their sales pitch, but not their confrontation issues. Therefore, situations will fester and later become highly offensive. And this type of atmosphere should not become a part of your organization. All right, let's keep going. When leadership avoids confrontation, it will result in backlash within your organization. Now, I want to show you a biblical model that reflects this principle. Let's look at King David briefly. King David was the father of many children. He had a daughter named Tamar, who was the full-blooded sister of Absalom. And one day, Tamar's half brother Amnon, was under the advice of a friend who told him to act as if he was sick and summons Tamar, his sister. He did just that. He acted as if he was sick. He called for Tamar. Tamar brought him food, and he raped Tamar. Mm. And he raped Tamar. He raped Tamar. Afterwards, Tamar informs Absalom of the incident that took place, and Absalom confronted David. Notice what Absalom does. He confronts their father. The scriptures reveal to us that David did not pursue punishment towards Amnon. The passive act of leadership moved Absalom to a place of hatred. Let me say that again. Absalom confronted David of what took place. Remember, Ammon had just raped his own sister, and his sister goes and tells Absalom. Absalom confronts David, and David doesn't pursue punishment towards Ammon. This passive act of leadership moved Absalom to a place of hatred. Second Samuel chapter number 13, verse 23 informs us that 2 years went by and Absalom threw a party for the children of David. And while they're at the party, Absalom secretly found Ammon and killed him. Absalom killed his own brother. And the reason why this incident took place, it is super simple. The reason why this incident took place was because of a lack of confrontation. Let us create a scenario. What if David would have confronted Ammon? What if David would have placed Ammon in some type of captivity? Let's say jail, legal action. Let's say he was penalized. Let's say he had to do 5 years of community service. Let's say he had to spend 4 years in prison. What if David would have placed Ammon in some type of penalty? Do we believe that could have possibly curbed Absalom's hatred towards him? Now, some may say yes, some may say no. Watch this. However, the lack thereof has caused King David's children to be at civil war with one another. And this is a reflection of a lack of confrontation skills that David should have possessed. Now, David was a giant slayer. David was one that killed the giant. But when it came to dealing with interpersonal issues, personal relational issues, David was not one who could speak his mind in a fashionable way that can argue or debate. He was one that was very submissive, one that was very passive. We find this in his relationship with Saul. King Saul is one that we'll dig into that as well. We find that with King Saul. We find that when dealing with Micah. We find that with dealing with Jesse. We find that with dealing with his brothers when he shows up to defeat Goliath and his brother says, "You came here to be nosy." We find David is not one that possesses an ability to communicate and debate and defend his stance. And therefore, passivity typically grows within a person when there hasn't been a need to confront various things in their journey. Now, again, that's hearsay, that's opinion, that's not 100% facts. That is my opinion pertaining to scripture and my perception concerning to leadership. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. So, furthermore, watch this. What you do not confront can become a very problematic issue within your church. In this case, as a leader, hesitation concerning confrontation may be in a different category. For some, they are hesitant to confront the person on staff who has a horrible report of turning away customers away from the business, or new members. People are joining, but they never come back. People visit, but they don't come back. And you're not confronting that person. This is due to emotional ties. But due to emotional ties, that staff person has not been confronted. The lack of confrontation has resulted in hundreds, thousands, and even millions of dollars lost within businesses, industries, and organizations presently. When you do not confront what is taking place in your organization, watch this, you are subconsciously investing into a future catastrophic issue called infection. Let's go ahead and dig deeper into this. Infections do not happen in seconds. Infections happen over a course of time. A marriage that does not have confronting moments is a marriage that is headed towards implosion or an infection. A church that does not confront issues is headed towards the split and an enormous loss of potential members, because whatever you do not confront, you endorse. And unfortunately, leadership today has endorsed infections. Unfortunately, leadership today has presently endorsed infections, but we're going to show you how you can overcome that infection, how you can overcome conflict. in your organization, in your church, and in your world of leadership. Let's keep going. Furthermore, before we can properly overcome conflict, we must first understand there are various types of personalities within our organization. And according to www.16personalities.com/personality types, there are four main personality traits or types with four subcategory types. All right, let me say that again. There are four main category types with four subcategory types. And if you multiply the main category by the subcategory, you'll see that lends us to almost 16 different personality types that you must be aware of. And I'm gonna briefly go through each one, and I'll share some do's and don'ts, and I'll share some red flags within each personality type. All right. All right. All right. Let's keep going. The first category, the first personality type that you're going to have to understand is in your organization is what I call the analyst. I'm sorry, what 16 personalities call the analyst. 16personalities.com calls this the analyst. And the analyst personality has four different subcategories. You may have an analyst who's an architect. These are imaginative and strategic thinkers with a plan for everything. They are planning everything. I mean, they write everything out. They have a strategy. They got numbers to support them. They're ahead of the game. These are your architects. These are your architects. All right. Within the analyst category, you also have logicians. These are innovative inventors. These are people that come up with inventions. They take what you give them and they create a new way to do it. However, they have an unusual thirst for knowledge. So you can have an analyst who's a builder, but then you can have an analyst who's an inventor who just wants to gather knowledge, who wants to study history, study algorithms and all of that stuff. But then you also have within the analyst a commander. This is a bold, imaginative, and strong willed leader, always finding a way or making one. This is the person that can get it done. This is the person that takes the research of the logician and takes the blueprint of the architect and says, you know what, we're going to do this way, and this is how it's going to get done. That's a commander. But then, fourthly, within the analyst category, you have the debater. They're smart and curious thinkers who cannot resist an intellectual challenge. These are the ones that's going to debate you. They're going to have words. They're going to have remarks. They're going to have some type of feedback to give you. And whether you like the feedback or not, the debater sees themselves as the one that's going to keep you on your edge, keep you fresh, keep you understanding how to communicate. Now, all four of these are in the category of the analyst. Here's the downfall that we have to be very careful of when it comes to confronting the analysts. Remember, the analysts consist of architects, logicians, commanders, and debaters. Here's the downfall. If you're going to confront an analyst within your church, you have to make sure three things are done right. Number one, you have gathered the proper information. Number two, your numbers, whatever, if it's money involved or any type of calculations involved, you want to make sure that you have proper calculations as well. When we talk about information, I'm talking about you want to know the incident that took place. Number two, you want to have proper calculations. Number three, if you're going to confront an analyst, if you're going to confront somebody that might be an architect, logician, commander, or debater, you want to make sure that you are pointing them forward and not pointing them backwards, meaning you want to talk to them in a way that says, hey, I want to keep you on board. I don't want you to leave our church. I don't want you to leave our ministry. I don't want you to step down. I don't want you to quit what you're doing. How can we work together to go to the future? Because remember, analysts are architectural already. They can actually build what you were talking about. Remember, they're logicians, they're inventors, they're commanders. They can get it done. They're debaters. They're people that can talk. They're intellectual. These are the four categories within the analyst. And so you got to understand it. You got to have your information right. You got to have your calculations right. But then also you got to be able to point them forward and not backward. Let's keep going. The second personality type that is within your church, organization, or business is what I call the diplomats. The diplomats, the diplomats. Number two, the diplomats. The diplomats are advocates. They're quiet. The first category within the diplomat is the advocate. The advocate is quiet, mystical, yet very inspiring and tireless idealist. I mean, no matter what comes against the advocate, they're going to find a way to see the good in the situation, whether they're on the side of the road with a flat tire, whether they're bankrupt, whether they're without money, they're going to advocate for something because they are mystical, they are inspiring, they're and tireless idealists. And so you have to understand that an advocate is going to defend. They're going to stand up for something. And this is in the category of the diplomat. Number two, you have what 16 personalities call is the mediator. The mediator. The mediator. The mediator is poetic, kind, altruistic people, always eager to help a good cause. The mediator stands between situations, conflicts. This is the person that says, hey, I think you need to just have a heart to heart with them. I think you need to hear their side. Now, here's the downfall of the mediator. Sometimes they can be advocating prematurely and ignorantly because they don't have the full facts or information, because they're not analysts. They're just diplomats. Remember, analysts, they get down to the nitty gritty, but diplomats, they're more so focused on making sure everybody's at peace. All right. So number one, within the diplomats, you have the advocate. Number two, you have the mediator. Number three, according to 16personalities.com, you have the protagonist. The protagonist. This is charismatic and inspiring leaders able to mesmerize their listeners. This is people that can take a situation and flip it. These are people that are great with their words. These are people that can sell anything to anyone. They can make a frog believe they can fly. They're protagonists. They are very sharp with their words, very, very focused on inspiring people, very focused on moving crowds. Number four, you have what 16 personalities call is the campaigner. This is the enthusiastic, creative, sociable, free spirit who can always find a reason to smile. Now, here is the downfall. If you're going to confront the diplomats in your business, typically the diplomats are the people's favorite. The analysts are not the people's favorite. The analysts typically probably have no hospitality, no type of greeter or down. They don't have that people personality. They're not as outgoing, but the diplomats are with the people. And so if you're going to confront a diplomat, you have to understand that you cannot do it in front of the people. Number one, if you're going to confront a diplomat, you must do it privately. Number two, if you're going to confront a diplomat, you must make them realize or focus on the procedures and the policies of your church, business, or organization. All right. So you got to confront them privately. You cannot confront them publicly. They're diplomats. If you confront them publicly or correct them publicly, you will lose the favor of your business, of your customers, of your church members, because a diplomat typically is making you look good to the people. But number two, you want to bring them back to the vision. You want to get them back to the procedures, to the protocols of why we do and how we do what we do. Because sometimes diplomats will stray away from vision. They'll stray away from protocol. They'll stray away from procedures, not intentionally, but because they have this liberated ideology concerning how they deal with people. They don't realize that they are yet still a representation of the church or a representation of the business. All right. So you want to bring them back to vision. You want to bring them back to protocol, bring them back to the procedures. All right. And then number three, if you're going to confront a diplomat, you're going to have to keep them encouraged. Watch this, to continue doing what they're doing. So you're going to have to correct them without cutting them. All right. You're going to have to correct them without embarrassing them, correct them without bringing shame on them. All right. I believe that is category number two. Let's keep going. Category number three. These are the sentinels. Now, some of these words are going to kind of be intertwined with various categories. Sentinels. The first category within the sentinels is the logician. All right. The logician. The logician is a practical and fact-minded individual whose reliability cannot be doubled. In other words, these are people that you can count on. These are people that's going to stick to the facts. These are people that's going to stick to the books. They're going to show up 15 minutes before. If service starts at 7, they're there at 7:45. If the meeting starts at 8:30, they're there at 8:15. They're factual. They're practical, down to earth. You don't have to worry about them missing or being risk factors. You can look out in the crowd and see them sitting on the same row week after week. Number two, within the Sentinels, you have what we call it within 16 personalities, the defenders. They're very, very dedicated and warm protectors, always ready to defend their loved ones. These are the people that's going to advocate for their personal friends. Now, they're not going to advocate for strangers. They're not going to advocate for people that they don't know, but they will advocate for people that they've walked with and journeyed with, and people that they loved on, people that they've seen come through XYZ. Number three of the Sentinel category, you have the executive. The executive, these are excellent administrators, unsurpassed at managing things or people. These are the people that can get it done. They can manage money, time, calendar, no matter what it looks like. The executive can get it done. All right. Let's keep going. Number four, this is console. Extraordinary, caring, social, and popular people, always eager to help. These are the people pleasers. I hate to say people pleasers, but you can find them in the face of the people. They're going to make everybody laugh. All right. All right. So the downfall of the Sentinels is this. Sometimes with dealing with Sentinels, if you're going to confront a Sentinel, you're going to have to understand something. Yes, you cannot come to the Sentinel with emotional biases, because the Sentinel is already somewhat emotionally biased themselves. For example, the defender is going to defend loved ones, and so they're going to advocate for loved ones and people that they love, even if that person is wrong. So you cannot confront them with emotional biases attached to your argument. Number two, you're going to have to separate your emotional IQ. You're going to have to separate your emotional state from your logistical state. You're going to have to show them logistics. You're going to have to show them what we lost, what we will lose if this continues to happen. This is what Sentinels can somewhat not get or fully get. Sometimes Sentinels don't understand, the vision and all of that stuff, but they do understand losing people. And Sentinels don't want the church or the business to lose people. All right. So if you're going to confront them, you got to confront them with understanding the right information. You can't come with emotional biases. Number two, if you're gonna confront the Sentinel, you're gonna have to understand something that you gotta separate your emotional side and your logistical side. You're gonna have to bring them back to the logistics of what we do. All right. But then number three, if you're going to confront a senator, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to measure, watch this, measure their relationships. Measure their relationships, because Sentinels, unfortunately, can be easily persuaded by people or by personal issues or by personal biases. Their personal vendetta gets in front of their vision for the organization. So if you're going to confront a senator, you got to understand this. You can't come with emotional biases. You cannot be emotionally biased towards anybody, no matter if it's your family member, loved one, close friend, or any of that stuff. Number two, you cannot have emotionalism and logistics tied together. You're going to have to separate the two and really focus on who we're losing if we don't fix this and what we're losing. Sentinels understand loss. All right. Sentinels understand loss. But then number three, if we're going to confront if we're going, if we're going to confront Sentinels, I lost where I was going. All right, if we're going to confront those Senators, we got to do it. We cannot have emotional biases. We got to separate the logistics from the emotional side of things, as well as various other ideologies pertaining to the Sentinel group. Let's keep going. Category number four: explorers. These are very, very adventurous type of people. The first category of explorers is virtuosos. These are bold and practical experimenters, masters of all kinds of tools. They can do everything. They're jack of all trades. They can get it done. They can finish it. Number two, adventurers. These are people they don't mind doing something new. They don't pick up something new and learn it in a second. They'll paint one week, draw the next, build the next. They're adventurers. Number three, entrepreneurs. These are smart, energetic people, very perceptive people who truly enjoy living on the edge. They'll quit a job just to pursue a business. All right. Number four, entertainers, spontaneous, energetic, and enthusiastic people. Life is never boring around these types. All right. So those are the four categories of personalities. And let me show you the downfall of the explorers. Sometimes the explorers don't have stability. So if you're going to confront the explorers in your organization or church, you're going to have to bring them back to stability and say, hey, if you do this, this is going to affect this area of your life. Number one, you want to ground them. You want to bring them back to stability. Number two, you want to show them, watch this, the damages that they may have made along the way, because explorers don't see the damage that they've caused. They don't see the relational damage. They don't see the financial damage. They don't see the collateral damage. They don't see it because to them, they're building. They're trying something new. This is something fresh, innovative, and it's time for us to do it right now. But they don't realize that sometimes there can be damages occurred along the way. All right. So number one, you're gonna have to deal with it. And then number three, if we're going to confront the explorers, watch this. If we're going to confront the explorers, we cannot attack their passion. We cannot attack their passion. The worst thing you can do with an explorer personality is attack their passion. Now watch this, you all. I shared all of that personality stuff so that you can understand these are the types of people that are in your church. These are the type of people that are in your organization. These are the types of people that are in your churches, in your businesses. And if you don't understand how to communicate to them or confront them, you will sometimes, or ultimately, unfortunately, you might lose them. You might even lose them, and you don't want to lose people if you can help it. All right, let's keep going. Moreover, in order to fully overcome conflict, we have to apply a formula that I created. I created this formula in my book, Crossover, and I call it the grit process. It is the grit process, and I'm going to briefly go through this. The first part of the grit process starts with the letter G, and it means to gather. Before you confront the situation or person, your staff, you have to do two things. Number one, you want to gather information. Confrontation with the wrong or halfway truthful information will result in contentment. As a leader, you must gather the information. Number two, you have to gather preparation. This is where you are gathering your thoughts together to develop a way to present the information that you have. During this gathering stage, you are also analyzing the history of performance and results. Leaders who gather firstly before confrontation will always experience better results. If I confront you without gathering the proper information needed, I will always present a one-sided case. I cannot assume. I have to study you, research you, and then sit down with you. Focus requires confrontation. I know this is uncomfortable. I know this may be a bit whiny. However, this is vital to your success. All right, let's keep going. Furthermore, the second letter in the grit process is resolve. Resolve. When dealing with the resolve, you are seeking for their number one explanation. This is where you allow them to explain themselves, their reasoning behind the situation. Once you have accomplished this, it leads to the second part of resolve, which is the solution. And this is where we figure out, how do we go from here? How do we move forward? The third letter in the grit process is I, and it stands for instruct. And this is where we, as leaders, spend time laying the foundation of two pivotal things. Number one, leadership. This is where we talk about the procedures and orders of operation. Once this has been stressed, it leads us to a better system